and welcome to Indepth. I'm Teena Jha. The 14-month tenure of Chief Justice of India Dipak Misra is ending on the 2nd of October 2018. Over the next few weeks, the Supreme Court bench, headed by the Chief Justice, is scheduled to deliver verdicts on many important cases. These cases range from gay rights to adultery, from entry of women in Kerala's famous Sabarimala temple to the politically sensitive Ayodhya issue, or the NDA government's ambitious push for Aadhaar. In other words, these cases and the judgments span an entire range of issues extending from politics, religion in politics, sexual choice, social practices, the state's right to data on the citizens, and the very ambit of fundamental rights. Today's In-Depth takes a close look at all the important cases in which the verdicts by the Supreme Court bench, headed by the Chief Justice, are awaited. Well, in the coming days, Chief Justice of India Dipak Misra is set to deliver more than a dozen landmark verdicts. Some of these are constitution bench matters, while others are being heard by a 3-judge bench headed by Chief Justice of India Dipak Misra. Barring a few, in all these cases, verdicts have already been reserved. Let's take a look at some of these issues on which the outgoing CJI is expected to rule in the next few days. Chief Justice of India Dipak Misra will retire on the 2nd of October 2018. The last 20 working days of his tenure are expected to see the Supreme Court bench headed by him hear an array of cases. Together with earlier cases, Chief Justice Dipak Misra's tenure will have a record number of Constitution bench verdicts. The most significant and impactful is the Aadhaar case, on which the bench headed by the Chief Justice is expected to deliver a verdict anytime in September. The validity of the 12-digit unique identification number has been challenged in the top court, with petitioners arguing that it violates the citizen's right to privacy. On the 10th of May, a Constitution bench reserved the verdict after a marathon 38-day hearing that extended over 4 months.
There are about 8 or 9 or 10 of them maybe, which are in the pipeline. For example, there is Aadhaar. On one hand, the Supreme Court says privacy is an absolute right. On the other hand, Aadhaar says that I have got to disclose my privacy, and so it can be compromised. Now the Supreme Court has to find out and tell us whether Aadhaar is constitutionally valid or invalid.
A Constitution bench is also expected to deliver its verdict on petitions demanding decriminalization of Section 377 Indian Penal Code that criminalizes homosexuality. The verdict was reserved on the 17th of July 2018.
This Section 377, where people of one sex can have sex together, it is an offence because it is supposed to be something unnatural. Now this is going to be decided whether it is an offence or is it not an offence, or is it a mere human default somewhere or the other.
Another significant case is the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid case. A 3-judge bench headed by Chief Justice Misra will answer the question as to whether a mosque is integral to Islam. A ruling on this is necessary before the top court takes up the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid title dispute. On 20th July, a 3-judge special bench reserved its verdict after Muslim parties demanded a reconsideration of the 1994 Muhammad Ismail Farooqi judgment holding a mosque is not integral to Islam. If the bench accepts the 1994 verdict, then the title suit of the Ayodhya case is likely to be decided early. But if the bench refers the matter to a larger bench, the Ayodhya case will be put on hold, since the title suit can be taken up only after the 7-judge bench delivers a verdict. The petition by Muslim groups wants a larger 7-judge bench to deliberate on the issue. However, the verdict given by Chief Justice Misra's bench is bound to have larger implications.
It has to decide whether to refer the constitutional case decision to a larger bench or not, because it holds it is not absolute religious compulsion. So a mosque can be acquired and things like that can happen, that will have to be decided now.
Petitions dealing with another outdated penal law dealing with adultery are also awaiting final decision from the top court. Petitioners want Section 497 of the IPC that punishes only a man for the offence of adultery to be made gender neutral. Besides, the Supreme Court will also decide whether politicians who are charge-sheeted in criminal offences should be allowed to contest elections. At an early hearing in the case, Chief Justice Misra had commented that corruption is a noun but becomes a verb when it enters the political arena. It is infective and resistant to antibiotics. He also told Attorney General K.K. Venugopal that under the Constitution, the government was obliged to make a law to stop criminals from entering politics.
For example, criminalization of politics. The Supreme Court is seized of the matter to find out whether a politician who is facing criminal charges, whether he can continue to hold office and or eligible to fight an election, stand up for election. So that will have to be decided.
Given the far-reaching impact of the issues, these are some of the verdicts that the Chief Justice of India's bench will deliver that have the potential to change the socio-political landscape of India. With inputs from Leena Sharma, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Apart from Aadhaar, Ram Janmabhoomi and the decriminalization of Section 377, judgments are also expected in several other important cases. These include the verdict on the entry of menstruating women into the Sabarimala shrine and the matter of disqualifying lawmakers facing criminal charges from contesting elections.
There are some more socially and politically sensitive cases in front of the Constitution bench to deliver its verdict before the retirement of Chief Justice Dipak Misra. The Apex Court is expected to deliver its verdict on whether MPs or MLAs can practice as advocates. The question is whether a legislator can be stopped from practicing law while holding the position of a lawmaker. The bench will also hear the matter on disqualifying lawmakers facing criminal charges from contesting elections.
Whether lawmakers can practice law also in the courts of law, because they are holding a particular office. Can they practice also? Now this will have to be decided. So far they can.
The bench will also take up the question of whether women of a certain age group can be stopped from entering the Sabarimala temple in Kerala. The bench, led by Chief Justice Misra, has reserved its order on the issue after an NGO approached it, questioning the prohibition. During the last hearing, the Apex Court observed that the practice was based on the patriarchal belief that a man's dominant status in the society makes him capable of austerity.
Now then the next is the Sabarimala, whether a woman is allowed to enter a temple for those given periods of time and all that. Now this is another issue where the Constitution calls for equality in every sphere. Can a woman be denied religious inequality? Can a fundamental right be defeated by recourse to a religion?
Then there's the NDA government's petition to review a 2006 judgment that restricts reservation in promotion in government jobs for SC/ST community. Those against it argued that the times have changed when certain classes faced oppression on account of their caste or social status. In 2006, the Supreme Court had put conditions for granting quota benefits for job promotions to SC/ST employees in the public sector.
Then another very important thing is reservation in promotion. Now, there can be reservation at point of entry. Does it have to reflect throughout the career or throughout the cadre of the? Those are things that have to be decided, and also whether there's a creamy layer that is entitled to continuous reservation, or does reservation end some way or the other. Now, these are highly cantankerous and issues which the court will have to decide.
Chief Justice Misra will also have to take a decision on whether to allow live webcast of court proceedings on a pilot basis. Chief Justice Misra is retiring on the 2nd of October and has already recommended Justice Ranjan Gogoi as his successor. With inputs from Leena Sharma, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Considered one of the most eloquent judges during his tenure as a Supreme Court judge, Chief Justice of India Dipak Misra is known for having delivered several key historic decisions. Few of his judgments are also considered unique as they have a literary and sometimes poetic quality. Let's take a look at some of his landmark verdicts.
Dipak Misra has grabbed wide public attention due to his several historic decisions during his tenure as a Supreme Court Justice and the Chief Justice of India. From the Nirbhaya case to the 1993 Mumbai bomb blasts case, Justice Misra has several landmark judgments to his credit. One of his most memorable judgments was the verdict confirming the death penalty of the 4 convicts in the Nirbhaya gang rape and murder case that shook the entire country. A 3-member bench comprising Chief Justice Dipak Misra and Justices R. Bhanumati and Ashok Bhushan dismissed a petition filed by 3 of the 4 convicts to review the apex court's earlier order confirming the death penalty given to them by the Delhi High Court in 2014. In his judgment, he stated, "The brutal, barbaric and diabolic nature of the crime could create a tsunami of shock to destroy a civilized society." This decision was appreciated across the country.
Actually, the fabric is so large. I can't offhand rattle out what he has done really, but he has certainly added a lot to the jurisprudence of this country. Yes, Nirbhaya Kand. Then his he held that death penalty could be given for an offence of that magnitude. So he has done a lot more. I really can't give you offhand how many there are.
Misra also scripted history when he headed the Supreme Court bench, which held court past midnight to hear a last-ditch plea from Yaqub Memon, convicted in the 1993 serial blasts in Mumbai and sentenced to death. The bench had turned down Memon's plea.
Bomb blast, Mumbai bomb blast, उसमें भी उन्होंने उनका काफ़ी योगदान है. ऐसे कई हैं. ये कह रहा कि भाई ये ज़्यादा अच्छा मुकदमा है, ये कम अच्छा है और ये जजमेंट ज़्यादा महत्वपूर्ण है, दूसरी नहीं. हर एक डिसीजन जो होती है सुप्रीम कोर्ट की, वो लॉ ले डाउन करती है और बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण होती है.
Justice Misra was also part of the bench that rejected Uttar Pradesh government's decision to provide reservation in promotions. The bench upheld the Allahabad High Court judgment that reservation in promotions can be provided only if there is sufficient data and evidence to justify it.
Another very important thing is reservation in promotion. Now, there can be reservation at point of entry. Does it have to reflect throughout the career or throughout the cadre of the? Those are things that have to be decided, and also whether there's a creamy layer that is entitled to continuous reservation, or does reservation end somewhere or the other. Now, these are highly cantankerous and issues which the court will have to decide.
Justice Misra also headed the bench that delivered the historic verdict recognizing a terminally ill patient's right to execute a living will to refuse medical treatment. The 5-judge Constitution bench mentioned thinkers, philosophers, writers, poets from ancient history to contemporary times, as well as popular Bollywood songs while giving the verdict. With inputs from Leena Sharma, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
In November 2016, Justice Dipak Misra's order mandating compulsory playing of national anthem in cinema halls triggered a nationwide debate. A bench headed by Justice Dipak Misra ordered a Supreme Court monitored floor test in Uttarakhand Assembly back in May 2016. Here's a look at some other important decisions, in fact judgments given by the outgoing CJI.
In a path-breaking judgment, a Supreme Court bench comprising Justice Dipak Misra and Justice C. Nagappan directed all police departments across the country to upload copies of FIRs on the police website within 24 hours of lodging an FIR. This order in September 2016 was aimed at protecting the interests of the suspects and their families. However, the bench clarified that FIRs related to cases of terror, insurgency, sexual offences and involving the right to privacy would not be uploaded. One of the most talked about decisions of Justice Dipak Misra was the interim order of November 30th, 2016, making it compulsory for all cinema theatres to play the national anthem before the start of every movie. He also made it mandatory for people to stand to show respect to the national anthem. In January 2018, the Supreme Court modified its earlier order and removed the compulsion.
National anthem, whether you have to stand up or you sit down or don't do it. He's clarified on that also. Then see all these facets hit upon the life of a normal citizen. So, like I said, the judgments which are likely to come out now are likely to change the course of human enjoyment to a particular level.
In May 2016, a Supreme Court bench headed by Justice Misra ordered a floor test monitored by it in the Uttarakhand Assembly. The floor test held on 10th May 2016 reinstated the ousted Chief Minister Harish Rawat and ended President's rule in the state. In November 2016, a bench headed by Justice Misra directed Microsoft, Google and Yahoo to block all prenatal sex determination advertisements hosted by them, calling them a violation of the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Prohibition of Sex Selection Act 1994. A bench of Justices Dipak Misra and P.C. Pant upheld the law criminalizing defamation. Rejecting arguments that penalization of defamation is past its time, the bench held that it is a reasonable restriction on the fundamental right of free speech and expression in order to protect individual dignity of life and reputation. With inputs from Leena Sharma, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
The significance of the cases also underlines the primacy of the post of Chief Justice in the Indian judicial system. Under the Indian Constitution, the post of the Chief Justice is supreme. This can be understood by the fact that the Chief Justice of India discharges the role of the President if the office of President and Vice President suddenly becomes vacant in emergency situations. Apart from this, if there is a confusion about constitutional provisions, the only valid interpretation then is the one given by the Supreme Court of India. Let's take a look at the qualifications mentioned in the Constitution for such an important post.
The Indian Constitution gives the power of appointing judges to the President. The President can take advice on these appointments from the Union Cabinet. For the appointment of the Chief Justice of India, the President can take advice from the judges of the Supreme Court and High Courts and other people as he deems fit. In 1993, a 9-judge Supreme Court bench ruled that a judge's seniority must be considered for appointment of the CJI and that the Chief Justice of India must be consulted for the appointment of other judges of the Supreme Court.
See, as far as Chief Justice is concerned, Justice Misra is going to retire on 2nd of October, I believe. Now, if he, a month prior to his retiring, he is required to he can suggest his successor, whoever he considers appropriate, he can suggest. Ordinarily, the senior most is recommended, but he can differ. In this case, I think he has already recommended the name of Justice Gogoi. And then it will go to the government, and the President will then either agree with the Justice Misra or may not agree. So it's open to them in that way.
The Constitution, however, does not specify any directives for the appointment of the Chief Justice of India. The eligibility criteria for the CJI is same as that of any Supreme Court judge. Article 124(3) of the Constitution prescribes that for appointment as a judge of the Supreme Court, A person must be a citizen of India. The person must have served as a judge of any high court for at least 5 years, or been an advocate in a high court for 10 years, or is, in the opinion of the President, a distinguished jurist. There is no minimum age for appointment as a Supreme Court judge. A judge of the Supreme Court, once appointed, holds office until he completes the age of 65. Article 124(4) prescribes the conditions in which the post of CJI may fall vacant. These are retirement on completion of 65 years of age, resignation, and removal through proper procedures. The grounds for removal of the CJI are proven misbehavior and incapacity. The Constitution has also underlined measures to protect the independence of Supreme Court judges, including the CJI. That is why the process of removal of the Chief Justice is a complex one. The wages, allowances, leave and pension of the judges is determined by the Parliament and cannot be altered unless there is a financial emergency. The additional expenditure or perks of the judges is borne by the state, but the CJI and judges are not allowed to continue practice in the courts after retirement. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And that's it from us in today's edition of In-Depth. We'll be back same time tomorrow with a focus on another subject. You can also watch our episodes online on YouTube and Twitter and get back to us with your feedback and suggestions. Thanks for your time.